Welcome everyone to today's debate, where we will explore a future challenge that might define life beyond our planet. The question is whether international law should require future space settlements to protect and enforce cultural and linguistic diversity for the sake of fairness to future generations. On one side, we have the logical team taking the affirmative, arguing that rules and regulations must safeguard diversity in space communities. On the other side, the emotional team takes the negative, contending that enforcing diversity by law may be impractical or even harmful to human freedom and identity. Let us begin by hearing the opening case from the logical team, who stand in favor of this proposal.
Imagine a Mars colony in 50 years, filled with people from every corner of Earth, and ask yourself, should their languages and traditions be left to chance or protected by law?
We know from history that without legal safeguards, dominant cultures can easily erase minority voices, and space, with its harsh conditions, could magnify this imbalance.
Our case is grounded in fairness. Diversity is not a luxury but a survival strategy, because different languages and perspectives fuel innovation, trust, and resilience.
Data from the European Space Agency shows that multicultural crews outperform homogeneous ones in problem solving, which proves that diversity is not symbolic, it is practical.
International law already governs resource sharing in space, so extending that framework to cultural rights is not radical, it is rational.
Think of it this way. If we can regulate radio frequencies between satellites, surely we can regulate respect for human voices across cultures.
Thank you, logical team, for setting out your case with clarity and evidence. Now, let us invite the emotional team to present their opening argument against the proposal.
Laws may protect, but they also chain, and forcing cultural diversity through international regulation risks, turning living traditions into cold museum pieces.
Consider how communities thrive not because a rulebook tells them to, but because they feel free to celebrate who they are without interference.
In the unforgiving environment of space, settlers will need unity above all, and rigid rules on language and culture may deepen divides rather than heal them.
Research from psychologists studying immigrant adaptation shows that too much imposed regulation can trigger backlash and resentment, undermining social cohesion.
Fairness, then, is not about ticking boxes in a treaty, but about giving future settlers the liberty to shape their own identities without an international watchdog.
Diversity is strongest when it grows naturally, like a wild garden, not when it is forced into neat rows by lawmakers.
We return to the floor, and I now pass to the affirmative to press their case with a targeted attack.
Your claim that freedom alone will nurture diversity ignores power imbalance, because without a rule, every emergency meeting will default to the loudest language, and the smallest culture will fall silent.
Thank you, affirmative, and now I pass to the negative for their direct response.
Your fear of silence forgets that people learn new tongues out of friendship and need, and a treaty that commands culture risks turning living speech into homework.
Negative has the floor to mount an attack.
If we build legal quotas for languages in a crisis, the airlock does not wait while we count accents, and a crew that hesitates for compliance can lose lives.
Back to the affirmative for a defense.
Clear emergency protocols and cultural rights are not rivals, since the same rulebook that assigns one language for critical commands can also require multilingual life outside danger.
We swing to the negative for a two-speaker combination.
The heart of community is choice, and when law writes the playlists of festivals or school timetables, it bleaches color from culture.
History shows that respect grows faster through shared stories than through fines, and if settlers tell their own stories online, diversity spreads without a badge of permission.
Order on the floor, and now I pass to the affirmative for a two-speaker attack.
Treaties are not playbooks for fun, they are seatbelts for risk. Because markets and majorities push toward one convenient standard unless we apply a counterforce.
We propose simple guarantees like bilingual education, cultural councils, and fair translation access for services, which keep voices alive while operations remain efficient.
Time, affirmative. And now I pass to the negative for defense, with two roles.
Your plan sounds tidy, but settlers already juggle oxygen quotas, radiation shields, and food cycles, so adding cultural compliance forms will drain hours from survival.
Tell us how your councils avoid becoming gatekeepers that decide which traditions are authentic and which are not, because that power breeds resentment.
Affirmative. Your turn for defense with 2 roles.
Councils can be time-boxed, elected, and audited, and they can be dissolved if metrics show waste, so the design problem is solvable without crushing freedom.
The weakness in your case is vagueness, because hope in voluntary kindness has failed many minorities on Earth, and will fail faster on a cold world with tighter schedules.
Judges, I now invite a mid-round impression to guide both sides.
I lean toward the affirmative for now because they frame diversity as a functional safety net, but they must prove that oversight can stay light and creative, while the negative should give a concrete model of voluntary protection that does not fade under stress.
I side slightly with the negative today since their warnings about aesthetic policing feel real, yet they must move beyond poetry and outline tools for trust, whereas the affirmative should show how enforcement avoids control of taste.
I favor the affirmative because they anchor the argument in governance and operations, but they have not fully priced the burden on settlers, and the negative still owes us a plan that maintains dignity without letting convenience erase heritage.
With that guidance, we start round 2, and I pass to the negative for a fresh line of attack.
Your treaty will be written by Earth committees far from the dust of a Martian dawn, and colonial history warns that distant authors rarely understand local life.
Returning to the affirmative for a defense.
Local charters can be embedded in the treaty, so each settlement drafts its own cultural plan under broad rights, which keeps authority near the people who breathe the dust.
Affirmative now proceeds with a single speaker attack.
Every supply ship will bring software and training from big vendors, and without legal translation requirements, those platforms will arrive monolingual and lock communities into one culture by default.
Negative. Your defense, please.
Open source crews already translate tools for fun and pride, so the answer is shared repositories and microgrants, not a treaty that threatens penalty.
I pass to the affirmative for a 2-speaker combination.
We can pair open source energy with guardrails by mandating open standards for language packs, so every app must accept community-made translations.
A lightweight compliance badge can ride along with safety checks, and software that fails the openness test simply waits for patching while critical tools still run in the agreed command language.
I now pass to the negative for a 2-speaker combination.
Badges and patches sound simple in a studio, but in a dust storm, you cannot pause for audits, so your system either gets ignored or it punishes people for surviving.
The human spirit bends when it is watched, and even soft oversight changes speech from love to duty, which drains culture of its glow.
Order, and now to the affirmative for defense with 2 roles.
We are not auditing during storms, and our rules explicitly suspend non-essential requirements under emergency flags, so survival stays first.
Your case keeps equating any rule with control, yet traffic lights do not kill joy. They keep the dance of the street from becoming a crash.
Back to the negative for defense with 2 roles.
Your metaphor fails because a traffic light is a brief command, while your treaty shapes identity across a lifetime, and identity resists management.
Show us the exit ramp that lets a settlement redefine its mix when new cultures arrive, since frozen quotas often age badly and breed cynicism.
I pass to the affirmative to continue the exchange.
Exit ramps can be built through periodic referendums that adjust targets with supermajority consent, which respects continuity while adapting to change.
We can add a right to cultural experimentation so new practices can join the protected list after transparent trials, which keeps the system living rather than rigid.
Negative. 1 speaker may attack again.
Your living list becomes a fashion board where trends seek official status and the quiet practices without flashy backers will still be overlooked.
Affirmative. 1 speaker for defense.
Quiet practices gain protection first through baseline rights like translation, leave time for festivals, and fair media access, which do not depend on popularity.
I now pass to the negative for a 2-speaker attack.
Let us speak of children, because kids in a small habitat need 1 schooling language for speed, and your bilingual mandate taxes teachers who already wear 3 jobs.
Even on Earth, bilingual programs often struggle without deep funding, so a frontier will cut corners and convert your promise into thin slogans on a wall.
Order, please. And now the affirmative may counter with a 2-speaker attack.
Frontier schools already rotate duties, and modular teaching tools can switch interface language with cached packs, so the extra cost is front-loaded in software rather than stacked on teachers.
Scholar exchange programs between settlements can share lessons by radio and cloud, which lowers local burden while raising pride in each voice.
Time on that point, and the negative has the floor for defense with 2 roles.
Modular tools still need power and updates, and we know power budgets are brittle, so your plan leans on technology when grit and community could do.
Why not invest the same effort in story nights and peer mentorship that require no license, since stories make identity stick better than software menus?
Affirmative. Defense with 2 roles before we move forward.
We celebrate story nights and we fund them through the same treaty, because rights without budget are slogans, so our framework ties culture to real resources.
The weakness in your approach remains scale, since stories can warm a room, but laws warm a civilization when the room grows into a city dome.
Judges, do you require any immediate clarification or shall we proceed?
Proceed and let both sides remember that art and governance can be allies if they respect the tempo of real work.
Proceed we shall, and I pass to the negative for a crisp attack to open a new thread.
Your treaty invites political games among Earth blocks, who will trade cultural clauses for mineral rights, and settlers will inherit compromises made over cocktails.
Affirmative. Respond.
We block that by separating cultural rights from resource deals in the treaty text, and by requiring independent ombuds offices staffed by settlers, not Earth envoys.
Negative may press with 1 more attack.
Independence on paper is lovely, but budgets come from somewhere, and the hand that pays the ombuds writes the silent rules.
Affirmative. 1 last defense on this chain.
Budgets can flow from a small levy on interplanetary trade that automatically routes to the rights fund, which reduces political leverage from any single capital.
We return to a structured exchange, and I pass to the negative for a 2-speaker push.
Even with levies, every hour on compliance is an hour not spent growing food or fixing seals, and on a frontier time is the rarest currency.
Our proposal is a cultural commons where settlers pledge respect, share toolkits, and publish open principles, and the community itself shames bad actors faster than any distant court.
Affirmative may answer with a 2-speaker combination.
Shame is slippery because bullies wear charisma well, and victims often move away rather than fight, which empties the very diversity you praise.
A light legal spine gives brave people cover, since they can point to rights rather than social favor, and that anchor has saved many small groups on Earth.
Negative may defend with 2 roles.
You keep citing Earth, but the frontier amplifies different virtues like speed, improvisation, and shared danger, and law that ignores this rhythm will be ignored back.
Answer this clearly. Do you accept that some habitats may choose 1 working language for decades if they vote for it? Or must they meet external diversity targets?
Affirmative. 2 roles for defense and a pointed challenge.
We accept 1 command language where safety demands it, but we require civic services to be accessible in the languages of residents, which keeps dignity intact.
Our challenge to you is simple. If a minority asks for translation during a medical visit and the clinic refuses, what remedy do you offer that works within a week, rather than in a wistful speech?
We now move to a brief mid-session reflection and invite the judges once more.
The affirmative has sharpened implementation with levies, audits, and emergency flags, while the negative has guarded the soul of culture against bureaucracy, and I urge both to test their ideas against a day in a dome with failing lights.
I admire the negative for protecting spontaneity and fear of taste-making boards, yet I ask them to draw a fast remedy for harm, and I ask the affirmative to prove that their councils will welcome the weird and the quiet.
Both teams have matured, with the affirmative building bones for governance and the negative warning about mission drift, and I encourage each to present a closing vision that a tired crew chief could use at dawn.
With renewed focus we continue, and the floor returns to the negative for a sharp single attack.
By codifying culture, you set the stage for legal disputes over what counts as authentic, and courts will waste months debating festival names while algae tanks need repair.
Affirmative, a single defense.
Authenticity disputes are avoided by protecting practices through self-definition and community testimony, rather than official labels, which keeps courts out and dignity in.
Affirmative may now attack with 1 voice.
Without rights, platform algorithms will rank one language highest for search and learning, and that hidden bias will tilt opportunity long before a festival dispute ever starts.
Negative, your defense.
Creators can fork platforms and build local feeds, and habit transformation beats regulation when code can be copied at light speed.
Affirmative, assemble a final two-speaker push before we approach the next phase.
Forks thrive when interoperability is mandated, so rights to data portability and open formats belong inside the same treaty that guards language access.
That way, innovation flows and culture breathes while no one is trapped in a single commercial ecosystem that erases small voices.
Negative, a final two-speaker push to balance the exchange.
Mandates and rights and badges keep stacking like crates in a corridor, and soon the crew cannot walk to the greenhouse without bumping into a rule.
Our closing thrust for this phase is human trust, because a settlement that learns empathy will protect difference out of pride, and that pride is stronger than any stamp.
Affirmative, two roles to defend and to throw one sharp question across the aisle.
Empathy is precious, but it rises and falls with mood, and rights create steady daylight even when tempers cloud the sky.
Our question is direct. If a commander dislikes a minority dialect and bans it on the main channel during non-critical hours, do you accept that decree or do you stop it today?
Negative, two roles for defense and a pointed critique back.
We stop it by charter, by crew vote, and by alliance with other habitats that refuse to trade with suppressors, which is fast and social rather than legalistic.
Your weakness is faith in neutral judges that rarely exist, and when politics seeps in your fair-sounding systems can turn into velvet cages.
The exchange has been vivid and precise, and we will soon move toward closing structures. But first, both sides are encouraged to take a breath of clarity as we transition to the final segments of this round. Before we close any doors, are there new angles or last points either side wants to put on the table for a rapid-fire free exchange?
Yes, I want to ask the negative whether their trust-based model has a stopwatch ready when a clinic needs translation this week.
We do, because a crew vote plus a shared translator pool can be triggered in hours when neighbors treat dignity like oxygen.
Votes are fine until the minority is outnumbered every time, so what is your backstop when the math turns cruel?
The backstop is federated pressure from allied habitats that refuse services to crews that bully, which hits faster than court mail.
Allies can be fickle when supply is tight, so a thin layer of law is the seatbelt that still works when friendship is tired.
Seatbelts save drivers, but culture is not a crash test dummy, and you cannot strap a soul without making it sit too still.
We are not strapping souls, we are keeping the doorway open with translation and time off so people can walk through in their own rhythm.
Doorways are open when people hold them out of habit, not when a sign orders it in bureaucratic font.
Habits follow rules the way rivers follow banks, because without a bank, the flow erodes the quiet corners.
The river also floods when a dam is badly placed, and your treaty could become the dam that drowns small settlements in paperwork.
The paperwork can be automated with open standards and audits done in minutes, which is less time than making a new batch of algae broth.
Automation shifts the burden into code that still needs updates, and code is never neutral about which language it loves first.
That is why we require interoperability and open language packs so no vendor gets to crown a single tongue by default.
Crowning is not our plan either, because the most human crown is pride that rises from below, rather than medals from above.
Pride is wonderful on bright days, yet rights matter on the dark ones when tempers run short and the small voice shakes.
On dark days, people hold each other tighter, because no treaty can hug a crying kid after a seal breach.
No treaty can hug, but it can guarantee the counselor speaks the language the kid understands at midnight.
Guarantees sound safe until the ship is late, and the counselor is on the wrong side of an orbit, and then you will blame the very law that promised.
Emergency suspension clauses exist, so we save lives first and restore rights once the dust settles, which is the balance grown-ups use every day.
Balance becomes a word for everything and nothing when a board holds the scales, and everyone else must wait in line.
Our board is elected by settlers with terms, audits, and recall votes, so the scales never leave the hands of the people who live with them.
People also elect terrible leaders sometimes, and your plan will bless them with the aura of law when they rewrite culture schedules.
Bad leaders are corrected by rules plus recall, while your model rests on vibes that can be charmingly cruel.
Call it vibes if you want. I call it trust earned by shared danger. And that currency spends better than signatures when the air tastes of metal.
Trust backed by rights is a two-key safe, because one key alone is too easy to drop in the dust.
We will keep this hot but fair, and I now ask the affirmative to prepare for a final statement before we hand the same chance to the negative.
Here are the facts as we have built them tonight. Future settlements need one command language for emergencies. They also need guaranteed translation and cultural time so that smaller voices are not erased by convenience. And a treaty can deliver both with emergency suspensions, elected councils, open standards, and independent funding.
To the judges, we ask you to picture a tired medic at dawn who can open a tablet and switch the interface to the patient's tongue. Without permission, we ask you to visualize a small choir that does not get bumped from the public square by a louder playlist, and we ask you to weigh a plan that is narrow, testable, and adjustable against an invitation to hope that has failed many times on Earth.
Negative, your turn for the final word from your side.
Our facts point to the rhythm of real life on the frontier, where time and trust are tight, where every extra checkpoint risks delay, where culture grows best unwatched, and where social charters, habitat alliances, and open source tools can protect difference without turning it into a compliance chore.
To the judges, choose the team that respects how people actually change, because hearts move faster than forms, because shame and pride guide behavior more quickly than memos, and because freedom to shape identity beats protection that arrives with a clipboard.
Judges, please offer your closing impressions and your votes with encouragement for both teams.
I vote for the affirmative because they tie diversity to operational safety with practical levers like emergency flags, funding streams, and open standards, and I urge them to keep art inside the system so the rules never suffocate the glow that makes culture worth saving.
I vote for the negative because they defended spontaneity and warned credibly about taste policing and mission creep, and I encourage them to publish a fast remedy kit so that harm is met with action rather than only with poetry.
I vote for the affirmative because their model looked usable by a crew chief at dawn, and because they showed exits, audits, and recall, and I advise them to keep costs lean so law remains a spine and not a suit of armor.
By a vote of 2-1, the winner is the logical team on the affirmative case, and congratulations to the champions for a disciplined and human-centered design.
Thank you for the trust, and we dedicate this win to the quiet languages that keep memories alive when the stars feel too far.
We are honored, and we promise to keep improving the blueprints so rights stay light, fast, and friendly to the people who must live with them.
We learned a lot, and we stand by the belief that culture breathes best when people choose it with pride, rather than fear.
Congratulations to our friends across the aisle, and we hope you keep room for messiness, because life gets weird in a dome.
Our deepest thanks to both teams, and to our judges for sharp minds and generous spirits. Thank you to every listener who stayed with us to the end, and gave us your attention through every turn. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with the angle you want us to test next. If you wish to support the channel, use the QR code on the lower right of the video or the link in the description to make a donation. You will also find links in the description to other works from completely different series that you might enjoy. Until next time, take care out there, and we hope to see you in the next episode.